Is it working? Ah, there we are. Welcome back, wormlings, to the baking heat of the noticed sun. It is time to begin again. Are you ready? It's a talk, this time by Gerd the Lion-Hearted. Oh, no, wait, Gerd Leonhard, near enough, who's going to tell us, what's he going to tell us about? Oh, the future of virtuality. Well, that will be interesting. So, if you can give a round of applause, please, everyone, for Gerd Leonhard.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dark Lord, for introducing me. So it's great to be here with you. I'm a very privileged position because I have an umbrella and I have 2 fans. And I'm also getting a little swimming pool later here with drinks. No, just joking. But I know it's really hot out there, so I'll try to give you some chilling news today. So I hope you can see me under the umbrella, but let me know if everything is okay. So I'm going to talk to you about the next 10 years. I've been a futurist talking about the future for 20 years. Before I talk about the future, I was a musician and producer. And I learned firsthand how everything changes really quickly in the internet years as a musician. And now we're exactly at this point where basically everything that we know is changing. The next 10 years will bring more change than the previous 100 years. And that's not an overstatement. So you're looking at things, of course, blockchain, Bitcoin, of course, right? Web3, genetic engineering, the shift to renewable energy, right? Cyber warfare, good things and bad things. We have a long list of things that are changing around us all the time. And I think it's safe to say that science fiction is becoming science fact. You know the first Blade Runner movie? Remember that, 1982? Yeah, I'm old, but I like the movie. This movie kind of made me think about the future first. I was 21 years old when I watched the film. And now we have a situation where basically the metaverse, it's like another edition of the internet. I'll talk more about the metaverse shortly. And so the things that we've seen around us that seem like science fiction, they're becoming real. Like, think of this basic idea. 20 years ago, right, I have this device here now. I have 62 million, or I think it's 80 million songs here on Spotify, right? 80 million. This sounded like science fiction only 10 years ago. Right? And I paid 10 euros for 82 million songs. That's how much things have changed in just 10 years. Now, 10 years from now, imagine a world 10 years from now. For one thing, imagine that the world is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, right? It's good to imagine today. What will that do to us and how are we going to have a good future? So, as we're heading into this future, you remember that scene from the movie Her? Anybody seen the movie Her? It's a great movie, right? Where the guy goes into, essentially, a metaverse, right? And he plays there, and this is becoming real now, right? So this whole idea of what the metaverse can do, which way we're going, the most important thing to remember right in the beginning, the future isn't about tomorrow. The future has already arrived. We just haven't noticed. So the other day I gave a talk as a hologram. I live in Zurich. I went into Zurich into a big fancy bank office. I went to a $2 million setup, and I came out in Beijing as a hologram. Right? I mean, this is working today. Now you have the first airlines who are thinking about selling tickets to go to Shanghai or Beijing or wherever as a hologram. Right? To travel virtually. Right? Science fiction is becoming science fact. We have to remember that when we think about the space that you guys are in, whether it's about gaming or online entertainment or all of those things, The future is completely different than the present. You know, I come from Germany. One of the proudest businesses in Germany were the car companies. The car companies in Germany, they thought that the future was to build better cars that go faster, that are more powerful, that take less gas, right? And build the perfect diesel engine. Okay? But up comes Elon Musk, and he says, my cars don't have an engine. They have software, right? Software is the engine of a Tesla, right? So in a very short time, basically we can say the future of the car is not to have a car with a gas engine, right? Nobody will buy a car with a gas engine in just a few years. I mean, if you look around here in Athens, most cars are gas cars. Right? But the change, imagine, think about the future like this, right? The future is completely exponentially different. So exponential, simple explanation, okay, if you count linear, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's what humans do, right? You get one step further. But you count exponentially, Moore's law, Metcalfe's law, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, you're leaping into the future. Consider yourself lucky, because we're at the take-off point of this, right? We're basically at this point here, where we're leaping from 4 to 256 in 8 to 10 years. That's about 80 times as much, and this is 1 million in another 12 years. If you have kids, you got to think about that, right? Your kids will live in a world that's 1 million times as different as today. That's hard to imagine. What does it mean? Supercomputing, like nuclear fusion, unlimited energy, being able to fix the human genome with DNA computing. That's hard to imagine, especially here in Greece, right? Because Greece is all about humanity, right? But technology will be everywhere. So in this world, we're looking at a world that's so dramatically different. Look at this chart here, right? Everything that technology does gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, right? The iPhone doesn't get any cheaper, but everything in it gets cheaper, right? My iPhone here has the computing power of the same computer that brought the Americans to the moon. The Americans went to the moon with the iPhone power that's contained in here today. In 10 years, my phone will have unlimited computing power, unlimited memory, and unlimited bandwidth. Think about what that will do for gaming, and for Bitcoin mining, right? And for cryptocurrencies. I mean, we're talking about exponential change, right? Sorry, I can't really see the slides very well here, so. This is what virtual reality used to look like, right? When you speak about virtual reality, Second Life or The Sims, right? You think about a guy with a television on his nose. Right? If virtual reality stays like this, it will not be successful, obviously. Right? But today we already have this, right? This is a band, forgot the name, can't read it here, where you can see there's a performance going on, right, in a cinema where they are wearing VR glasses. Well, you get the point, right? I can't quite see why you would not go to a concert instead of going to the cinema with the VR glasses, but hey, you know, everything is becoming possible. Right now, if you buy the best possible virtual reality glass, I just bought the Microsoft HoloLens, it's 4,000 euros. Right? This will drop down to be 444 euros in 10 years. Imagine all the things we can do with this. And I'm here to tell you that not all of this is going to be good. You heard about gaming addiction, of course. You heard about mobile phone addiction, about social media addiction. Imagine how this could work, right, for kids. I would never want to leave virtual reality. Now we're heading into a future where it's really quite simply about this, right? I call them the game changers. So there's data, there's the cloud, there's the Internet of Things, right? There's quantum computing. Let me see if I can catch this. No, I can't. All the things that you may have heard about, they're coming together, all of them at the same time, right? I call them the game changers. So let me pinpoint just 5 of them. Data is the new oil. I said that for 20 years. The data companies are the most powerful companies in the world today. Facebook, Google, Alibaba, Amazon, they're richer and more powerful than any oil and gas company in the world. The second thing that really matters is voice control. We're not going to do computing in the future by taking up a screen or typing on an app. Right? We're just going to speak and say, hey, remember that guy I met at Vulcan2? Connect me. Right? Set me up for dinner with my date. Find the perfect match. Right? Get me a root canal from the robot. Right? We can speak to computers. Lastly, the third one is artificial intelligence. That is the new electricity, connecting everything. And this could be so powerful that it may actually become more powerful than us. So we'll have to think about how to control it, right? And the fourth one is virtuality. It's like having new eyes, new ears, new skin. And it's kind of a strange thing also, because we know, of course, it's not real, right? It's actually a really bad name, virtuality, right? Because it's not real. It's not real, it's virtual. Right? So it's kind of like artificial intelligence. And lastly, of course, the most important driver of everything you guys are doing, this is a new way to transact, the blockchain. And be aware, I'm not talking about Bitcoin here, right? I'm talking about the protocol, which you guys are all working on. Right? This is going to revolutionize how we transact everything. Money, shares, contracts. This is happening all over the world, a major driver of change. So, you have already seen in Greece, for example, this has been two important pieces, the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution. Now we have three revolutions coming up. Consider yourself lucky or unlucky, depending how you want to look at it, because they're happening all at the same time, right? The next one is, of course, the digital revolution. Right? We're in the middle of this. And afterwards, the sustainable revolution, green energy, right? And lastly, the human revolution. This is really important, right? Because we have all three at the same time. There is no future without the sustainable revolution. If we don't find a way to get away from fossil fuel, we are toast in 20 to 30 years. And I'm talking about truly toast, as in toasted, okay? So basically what we see here is a complete shift of roughly 150 trillion euros of money into the green energy field. I know Greece, for example, is very heavily involved with this. And the last one is to change what we are. For example, it is possible now to identify if your body has a gene for diabetes. And it's possible, in theory, to do something about the gene, right? In theory. We're roughly 20 years away from preventing cancer using gene therapy. And think about that for a second. It's too late for me, if, 20 years, maybe. And of course, we have now ways of essentially programming humans, and that is going to be a really, really big challenge in terms of ethics and technology, right? So, the digital revolution has brought us this. It makes it possible for you to become a digital human, which is a very strange thing, because we're not at all digital, right? We don't actually use data to make decisions, we use emotions. Most of our intelligence is not about logic. It's about social intelligence, intelligence of the mind, kinesthetics. Right? It's actually not, we're not at all like a machine. We're the opposite of a machine, right? We're inefficient, we change our mind, we have a downtime, right? So that's going to be quite a challenge to bring this together in the future. In a way, you could say, we're becoming as God. I'm not religious, so I hope I'm not insulting you, but technology is allowing us to get superhuman. Right? And I know where many of you are probably geeks like I am. I love to mess with technology. But we have to ask a question. Will everybody become like this, or just the rich? And if so, what are the limits? And who has control over this? All of you in this room, I see mostly younger people than me, you are very likely to live until you're 100 years old in average. It's called longevity, right? And we're getting more longevity because we have better medical, we have better everything except for the environment, right? My kids at 33, they could very well live to be 120 years old in average. Can you imagine that? I mean, this world is vastly different, more godlike in so many ways, right? So the real question is here, how far do we go with this? Right? How far would you go? You know, there's a guy called Her who had an accident mountain climbing, and he lost both legs. And he found a guy who makes prostheses that are very fancy, cost $1 million or so, to make new legs. And with those legs, he can climb better than with his own legs, right? Because they're made for climbing, right? And now there's people who are saying, I want to take off my legs so I can get other legs. Right? Can you imagine this? How far would you take this? You know, here in Europe, most of you are from Europe, we're humanists, right? So we don't want to become a machine, but there's many discussions about how far we can go, which way we can go. This is Elon Musk's new project called the Neuralace. Check it out. If you haven't heard about this, Elon is proposing to put little holes into your skull, and he's ready to do that himself, and connect with electrodes to a computer so that you can go directly on the internet without having the mobile phone or anything, directly connecting. And it has been trialed with monkeys and others, and it works, right? It's called the brain-computer interface. So in this world, the question is, how far do we take it? The next example is even more scary. There's people in California inventing what's called the exogenesis, to give birth outside of your body. I know you find this disgusting if you're a woman, right? I mean, this is a machine, and this is not Minority Report science fiction, right? This is a machine that breeds the baby. This is a real project, right? So the question we have to ask, how far do we go with this? As technology is going exponential, this will be the key question also for you in your life and in your business. Right? Technology has no ethics. Technology doesn't care about what your emotions are, your values, and what you're thinking about. It just makes things faster and more efficient. Right? So we have to decide what we want. The key question about the future will not be what is possible, because basically everything becomes possible in roughly 10 years. The key question is, what do you want? If you want to live in virtual reality and live there like Zuckerberg is suggesting, to actually live there, you can. So this is the key question. And who is in charge? Will it be the European Commission? The CEO of whatever comes, Meta, right? Who decides which way we're going? So the really important part on this is that technology can be a present, but it can also be a bomb. And we have to be aware of this, because what happened, for example, with social media, remember social media was a godsend for a long time, right? And we all loved it. And now we all feel like social media has become a poison. Right? You know, negative news carries 6 times as fast on social media, particularly Facebook, than positive news. So people are thinking that the world is shit, right? Because everything is bad. Everything you see is bad. And the whole thinking about the future has been tainted by this. So this is a real question. Which way are we going? So we have to think about what I call hell then, heaven or hell, right? Technology can be both heaven or hell. That's true for a hammer. You know, you can take a hammer and build a house, or you can kill the neighbor. Right? And it's true for virtual reality, it's true for the metaverse, it's true for AI. You can do terrible things or you can do good things. It's true for gaming, right? You can do great things, you can do not so great things. It's true for cryptocurrency as well. That's the first thing, and we have to decide what do we want, what are the ethics. And the next one is, we have to protect what makes us human. What makes us human? Well, there's a long list, right? Emotions, understanding, imagination, intuition, all the things that machines can't do. Imagine we lived in a world where everything that we do is tracked and observed by machines. Then you go to China, for example, right, where they have what's called the social score. Every Chinese citizen has a score of how well they are doing in society. I know, it sounds crazy, right? And if you want to rent a house, you have to have the right score. It's called the social credit system. Black Mirror, right? Remember Black Mirror? Exactly like this. So we have to think about how far do we go and which way is it heading. Because one thing is for certain, that humans and machines are overlapping increasingly. You know, if I use this device, the machine is outside of my body, right? I use it all the time, just like you. We're addicted to it. But if I lose this, I can still live. If I go hiking in New Zealand and there's no network, I'm still Gerd. I can still exist. Right? But if I get the internet on here, on augmented reality glasses, right, and I get used to this, I will feel very bad when I don't have it. If you've tried lots of virtuality, you're wearing it a lot, then if you go home in the evening to see your family or your kids, it can be really boring, right? Because you don't see all this stuff anymore. So this is the key question. How do we interface and which direction do we take in this? Here's GPT-3. It's an artificial intelligence that you can control by giving commands by voice or typing. And this is from OpenAI, and this app here, you can basically use this app to ask anybody to teach you. Right? It's not public on the web, but you can see it on YouTube. For example, I can type in a question to Elon Musk, and it will give me an answer, acting like it was Elon Musk. Right? And it makes a lot of sense. It's obviously not alive, but you know, it does that. And an even scarier one is this one called DALL-E. That's also from OpenAI. It's an artificial intelligence that generates pictures and images. This will be very interesting if you're a game developer. Right? It creates visual assets based on text cues by scouring trillions of data on the internet.
Meet DALL-E. DALL-E is an open AI which generates images using 100% artificial intelligence. So what does that mean? It means that every image you are currently seeing did not exist prior to when they were generated. It's basically a giant brain that uses the whole of the internet to create unique imagery within 20 seconds. The concept is simple. Input your information and wait. The system then renders variations of...
Just an example, it goes on for a long time. You can see it on YouTube. But imagine if you spoke to an AI like this and I said, I want to create a new lore that combines Norwegian folk tales with Swiss hiking experiences, whatever, right? And it will come up with visuals. And you can say the visuals are crap, right? It's probably true. But if it gets better, right, imagine what we can do with this. And you can write the code for an app. All you have to say, make an app that does this. Right? Talk about programming in the future. So that is a situation that is right in front of us. And the powerful thing that we have to imagine that technology is no longer stupid. Technology is no longer just dumb machines. Technology is not human. It's not intelligent like we are, but it's no longer stupid. Google Maps, for example, can be very stupid, right? The other day I read about a Swiss couple that went to Rio de Janeiro, and they had a rental car, and then they said to the Google Map, I want to go to the hotel outside of Rio. And Google Maps sent them straight to the favela, the slums of Rio de Janeiro, at 8 o'clock in the evening, because it was the quickest way. Right? And they almost got killed. because you don't go into the favela in the evening, or never really, but not in the evening. So technology can still be very stupid. But this is our intelligence here, right? Humans have 8 different types of intelligence: kinesthetic, emotional, intellectual, social. Like if we meet afterwards, maybe for just 30 seconds, when you meet somebody for less than 4 seconds, the other human recognizes who you are in 4 seconds without saying a single word. That's because that's what we do. Right? That's how machines don't do that. Humans do that. So when we think about that future, it's quite clear we're going to be in a future where there are a lot of machines doing things. Driving, flying, programming, writing agreements, setting up schedules, monkey work, right? Well, driving and flying isn't monkey work, but, it's commodity work, right? So we're going to automate a lot of the work. And what's going to happen with people that have this job? Like checking out in the supermarket. Machines are doing that already, right? So in this world, here's the most important slide of this part, right? You have to move up the food chain. And this is where we have to change education also, how our kids are learning. Because that lower part down here, the intellectual knowledge, the logic, that's machine turf. Machine turf means a computer can read it, a computer can understand it, a computer can create something on it, a computer can make decisions, and it doesn't take human ingenuity. If you write a non-disclosure agreement, if you are a lawyer, chances are there will be only one tiny thing you're changing, right? Depending, of course, what it is. Right? But machines can do that. Machines can drive a car. Machines can fly the airplane. Machines can organize trading on the stock exchange. 43% of the world's global stock exchange is based on AI trading already. So here's your future job. Right? It's called the meat space. You guys know about the meat space, of course. Meat meaning body, right? Flesh, humans. And this is what we do, right? We have wisdom, understanding, knowledge, of course, also, but more quiet knowledge. So this is what our kids have to learn. Our kids shouldn't be learning how to download information in school. Right? Anybody can download information. Computers download information. Our kids should learn how to understand things. Right? This is the great thing about games, because games aren't as factual as it looks. Right? You have to develop an understanding. Right? And the best people in gaming, of course, are the ones that have a certain wisdom, you could say. Right? And that's really quite true, I think, for our reality, which way we're going. So ultimately, in this kind of pie chart here, you have to see if you can move into the future that's outside of the lower part, because our ultimate job will be to be human. That's it. In 20 years, we're not going to do the work that machines can do. In 10 years, we'll be doing a lot less work, and we may be already working, there's the first trial now in the UK, for a 4-day work week. Started yesterday. Finally, we are going to go into a future where we work less, because the machines do the work for the same money. That's, of course, the critical point. Right? Many people are saying in 20 years, we will get paid to do nothing. Right? It's called the universal basic income. We get paid just to do whatever it is that we want to do, whether it's having kids or working in a kindergarten or programming a game or writing a book or taking care of the city. Did you know that every single city in Europe is now looking to hire hundreds of people who help the city work on climate change? They used to be called activists, protesting, and right? Now the city wants to hire those people to help them fix things in the city that are based on climate change. Did you know that the climate change envoy, the most important person in climate change in Germany, Jennifer Morgan, is the former CEO of Greenpeace? Can you imagine, in a very short time, right? There's a woman who was the enemy of most governments, right? The CEO of Greenpeace. She is now the climate change envoy. Right? This is how quickly things change in our world, which way we're going. And again, it's going to be really important to protect what makes us human. I mean, this is really what it's all about in the end, right? We want to embrace technology, but not become technology. When you become technology, you're a commodity. Does anybody still remember the days where we were fighting about which mobile phone network we're using? And now it's all commodity, right? What matters is not the network, but what's in the network, how it delivers and how it performs. And that brings me to my chapter of understanding technology. So when you're looking at this, common problem with technology is that we always think it's much closer than it is, because we confuse a good site like Mount Fuji with a short distance. And that is so true about the metaverse and virtuality. Right? I'll give you an example of what that means. Right? Before I do that, this is the Bitcoin value, right? Of course, everybody in this room knows that it has not been a good week or a good month, right? But if we look in context, it's not so bad, right? The green line here. And I would say in many ways that's probably to be expected to continue like this, right? But ultimately it's quite clear Bitcoin, in my view, will never be the official currency. It'll be more like what's called the central bank digital currency. So a blockchain protocol that's run by the banks for various reasons. So there are many discussions about this, and we always think that it happens very quickly, but it really doesn't. If we want to find value in Bitcoin, we have to look on the 10-year horizon, right? Not a 2-year horizon or a 2-month horizon. And that's going to be pretty tough, in my view. Self-driving cars. Has anybody here in Athens seen a self-driving car out here? Right? No. This vision of the future from Mercedes, right? I can see a self-driving car in Palo Alto, California. Right? That's experimental. And why is that? Because a self-driving car, to drive like a human, is actually very complicated. So if you're in Los Angeles and you rent a Tesla, you can go on the freeway and you can fall asleep. Going in the traffic jam, I've done it many times. The Tesla will drive very safely, 20 kilometers an hour, puttering along. You can take a nap. It does that really well. But if I take the Tesla to Beirut or to Rome, right, it will have an accident every 2 seconds. Right? And that's the difference, right? This is not as close as it looks. What is close is automation, but not complete self-driving. The same goes for this, right? This is a demo from Google I/O about a device that translates language and puts it onto your eyeglasses.
我可以听得懂，可是有时候我讲不来嘛。
We'd love to be able to share with you a new prototype we've been working on. You should be seeing what I'm saying, just transcribed for you in real time, kind of like subtitles for the world.
You can always recognize a Google video by the stupid music that they have in the background, which is pretty much always the same. But here, the augmented reality glasses, that is actually not so difficult. You know why this is not working? This is a demo, right? Because the translation isn't working. It's not because the glasses aren't working. Google Translate kind of works, but only kind of. If you used Google Translate here right now, speaking in Greek, translating to English, all the background noise and everything, it just wouldn't work. I mean, my own computer doesn't know my name because it's Gerd, you know, G-E-R-D. That's not an English word. It calls me nerd or turd or whatever, but not Gerd, right? Because it doesn't exist in English after 10 years of using it. So this is happening. We're going to see translation that is happening, but it's not as close as it looks. And finally, the metaverse, yeah, working in virtuality. This is a demo from Facebook, Horizons, or what's now called Meta. Right? This is really interesting, right? But it's probably as far away as the clip that you saw from her, you know, the film. Right? I mean, to have a setup like this will cost tens of thousands of dollars and take weeks of training. Right? We're going there, but we're not here. Okay? Just like we're going to Web 3.0 in a decentralized way of doing things, but we're not here. Right? And many promises that we look at technology, it's always like this, like the metaverse, and I'll talk about that, why that is. Right? I'll give you a short quote here from one of the pioneers of the internet, John Perry Barlow, who was a writer for the Grateful Dead. He wrote lyrics for the Grateful Dead. He was the founder of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and he wrote the Declaration of the Independence of Cyberspace in 1996. Let's hear John speak.
Governments of the industrial world, you weary giants of flesh and steel, I come from cyberspace, the new home of mind. On behalf of the future, I ask you of the past to leave us alone. You are not welcome among us. You have no sovereignty where we gather. We have no elected government, nor are we likely to have one, so I address you with no greater authority than that with which liberty itself always speaks.
You can see the rest on YouTube. This was 1996, right? What does it remind me of? It reminds me of the language that we have today on the metaverse and Web 3.0, right? Web 3.0 is going to solve all the problems of the creator economy and how artists make money. It will solve all the global problems if we only had this, right? Well, the reality is we're never going to solve human, cultural, political problems with technology. That's what the internet has shown. We've solved many problems with technology, but that problem we can't solve, right? If we want a better creator economy, it's not just going to be about blockchain or Bitcoin or whatever we look at, right? The metaverse actually is construed of all these different pieces that you see here. I just want to highlight that we're so early in this process that we have to be careful with what we're thinking. For example, social media, right? If the metaverse has social media components, then I'm worried, right? Because as you know, social media hasn't done exactly good for us in so many ways, right? In fact, you could say that it has been quite poisonous, right? And now we have to, I mean, Elon Musk wants to do this, right? If the metaverse is like social media, I don't want it. Because then it means it will be 500 times as bad on top of the bad things we already have, like natural language processing. We have that, and it's going to work, but it's not quite here yet. I can't go into a room and speak Chinese and have it come out in German. If I speak like this, like a snail, you know, then maybe I can translate to simple Greek. And speak like an imbecile, you know, then it would work. So when we look at this future, the other thing that we have to consider about the metaverse is all the stuff that it's promising. I mean, the hype on this is just amazing, right? All of these things that it does, right? So, the spatial audio, the user interaction, the decentralized, and this isn't happening, that's why it's red, right? The first circle, I can't read it from here, basically. That is going to be difficult, and the second one is, that's here, right? Using NFTs and currencies, that's here, that's green. We haven't quite figured out how to actually mutate this across all platforms, right? But that's here, and now the built-in crypto commerce, that's kind of also there. This one, real-time environments? No. The CEO of Intel, the most powerful processor company in the world, said the other day it will take 1,000 times the computing power we have today to make this work in real time. So that is possible, but it's not here. The spatial audio, that's great. I can hear people talking from different directions. I love that concept, and that's here, right? So the bottom line on this is really, on the metaverse is, we have to ask a question. How real is it? And who is controlling it? I mean, 3 billion people use Facebook. Most of you probably don't use it anymore, right? You're on other platforms. But we do have to ask the question, who is actually in charge, right? Who is mission control on this? And that will be a tough question to ask. And now we have the metaverse, of course. You have haptic gloves. You have a machine that simulates a kiss on metaverse. No doubt there'll be many new pornographic variations of this on the metaverse because it's an obvious application, right? So, and the sales are supposed to be looking amazing. Look at this, right? So my short summary on that is it will probably make a lot of money, but will it do a lot of good? And that's a question we have to ask. Ideally, it could be both. Now we're going to have to ask which way we're going with this. Maybe Apple will solve this problem. This guy, hello Mark, I don't know what he's saying, but he's trying to say something. Zuckerberg, right? He's the most ardent defender of the metaverse. This is a quote from his recent speech, right? Where he says, it's about the time when immersive digital worlds become the primary way we live our lives. I don't know, I have a question about, I mean, if you're seriously into gaming, you could relate to this, right? But do we want to live our life, our primary life, in a digital space? I mean, to me, that sounds crazy, truly crazy, right? Because I want technology to be my tool, not my purpose. That is a question that we have to answer, right? We have to figure out, for example, here, you can say, when you get goosebumps, that's the result of like 50 million different processes in the human body. That is called reality, right? Here this guy says in research, the sensory input our body gets is from eardrums and taste and receptors and vibrating units on our skin throughout the body. It's called the single unified experience. That is the human experience. So there's nothing wrong with having not a unified experience, virtual experience, but it isn't the same. So that's something we have to think about as we're building new things. This author actually says that virtuality is basically impossible for humans, right? Because it does not create all of the input that we need for a real experience. So I'm investigating this, I'm trying it, but I think we should have a good look and see which way it's heading and what we want from it. Because what we don't want is this, right? We don't want to think of ourselves as just putting in a faster processor, right? We have to embrace technology, but not become technology. So I'm going to give you a short summary, and then I'll let you sweat it out for the rest of the day. So first, the key question of the future isn't the question whether it's possible, right? The answer is yes, it is. We have the tech, we have the science, we have everything. 10 years, we can do anything. You can connect to your brain and play on the internet and go away forever. It's possible. The question is what kind of future you want for yourself and for your children. Because it will take a lot more than that to actually have what I call a good future. And so the good future is an interesting point. I made a film last year called The Good Future. I make one film a year. It was hard to find out what good is. Most people agree on what good is. Not dying, not starving, having a family, having civil rights, having some sort of freedom. That's kind of bottom line good. So you got to watch the movie. It's at thegoodfuturefilm.com. It's free on YouTube, right? But this is an important question. I think pretty much everybody wants a good future. Very few people want a bad future. Right? But this famous futurist, Buckminster Fuller, who you should read, is about 50 years ago, he said this: we are to be architects of the future, to build the future, not the victims. And I think it's so important when we think about everything that we do here, everything we think about games, right? We're architecting something, the world around us, and we have to be responsible to those who come after us. We have to be good ancestors and think about where the future is going. So I'll leave you with that thought of watching the film, The Good Future. And I want to thank you very much for listening and for sticking it out here in the heat. My book is called Technology versus Humanity. It's available on all the stores, Amazon, and so on. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day. Thank you.
Not sure, are we on? Yes. Thank you, Gerd. That was really fascinating. It really helps me to plan my conquest of the Earth, knowing how the humans will use their technology against me. Anyway.